Hey stylists, hey stylists, happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. Welcome back to another live segment. I'm so excited to be live today, as I always say, because I love talking to y'all. I love talking to y'all. I love covering different topics, answering questions that you all may have, and just covering different topics that I feel like the average stylist may not know, or even the typical stylist may not talk about. So, today I want to talk about the power of pivoting. I'm trying to see if I can send out an email to share my live, but I'll just share it after we go live because at this point I want to focus on one thing at a time. I don't know about y'all. I can multitask really, really well, but sometimes I be doing too much. I'm like, oh, I can do it, and it's like, girl, just do one thing at a time. But today, like I mentioned, I want to talk about the power of pivoting, when and how to shift in your styling business, because I feel like at this point in time, usually around this time of year, I feel like many of us, including me, are in a space and are open to pivoting and trying something different, trying something that, may work differently. You might be going through a season in your business or even a shift in your business where you feel like what used to work is no longer working. And I know I've experienced that quite a few times. And currently, I feel like I'm going through it right now. And it happens. It happens. I mean, and sorry to be fixing my hair. I feel like it looks crazy on camera. It happens. And I mean, the longer you're in the industry, the more you'll be open to pivoting and just trying new things. And that's really like, sorry, y'all, this is throwing me off. That's really like what being an entrepreneur is all about. I mean, being open to change, being open to doing something different, being open to shifting and trying new things, but still also staying true to you. Just because you're pivoting doesn't mean you're doing something completely out of alignment with what you are, currently doing. That doesn't mean that. It just means that you are shifting in a different direction, like I mentioned, trying something new and doing something different, seeing if it will bring you the results that you are, looking for, or seeing if it will now attract the type of client that you're wanting it to attract. So, I want to give you all three different points today about pivoting and what that can look like for you. And, talk through the importance of pivoting in your business because there is no one business that has stayed the same their entire lifetime. There has there's always going to be something new that a business is going to try or something new that a business is going to tap into just to stay, I don't want to say just to stay relevant, but just to stay top of mind for people, because there's so many stylists out here that are offering very similar services, similar experiences, talking about similar things. And for the client, it can become overwhelming. Like, oh, wow, well, what is the difference between me going to her versus me going to her? And 9 times out of 10, it's usually something, whether it be relatability, whether it be the price point, whether it be location, whether it be, the type of stylist or the person that you are that attracts the client. And you can attract a ton of clients with who you are and with what you're doing right now. But sometimes, there can come a time where you may want to try something different to just see what else is out there, to just see who else you can attract, if I'm making sense. So, real quick, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Kristen Johnson. I'm the CEO and founder of PSU, which is Project Style University. That is where I help first generation personal stylists truly turn their love and passion into style, in love for passion of styling into a profitable business. I was doing so good, y'all. I don't know what happened. I do that through mentorship. I do that through one-on-one coaching and group coaching, and I also do that through these YouTube videos and lives. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for following me, loving my videos, liking my videos, commenting on my videos, and of course, subscribing. One last thing I want to mention is that Hey Stylist is a new community that I launched earlier this year. I want to say maybe about a month or two ago at this point, and it is a private group chat community where I invite stylists to come and commune and talk and connect and share resources and ask questions and do all the things and just be in a space where they can be themselves, but also learn. I created Hey Stylist because it's something that it's a community, and I've been wanting to build community since I even got into this industry because I noticed that there weren't many stylists that look like me. One, two, being in the Baltimore area, there aren't really many stylists here in general. Two, and three, I feel like I want to be able to relate to somebody. I have a couple of handful of stylist friends, but I want to meet more of y'all. I want to be able to connect. I want to do lunch. I want to have co-working days. I want to be able to talk about different topics that we all understand. I don't have too many other friends that are stylists. So creating that space for me is really just giving me the opportunity to connect and learn about who else is in the industry, of course. And for me to also help where I can help. I've been in this industry for over a decade, going on 12 years next month, and I've learned so much. I've grown so much, and there's so much that I can give to stylists that are coming up behind me, even stylists who are possibly on the same level as me. I mean, I didn't create this space to be the teacher. I do love teaching and educating, but I really wanted this space for stylists to, just really have a space to talk and to rant and to do all the things. So it's completely free to be a part of Hey Stylist. If you want to be a part, I will leave a link below. It is in a group me, so it's a group chat community. And yeah, I hope that you join. But other than that, let's get started because I really don't have a ton of time today. I feel like I say that every time and I always talk for hours. But I really want to make sure that I am, taking advantage of the time that I do have. So 3 points, three speaking points for the power of the pivot. So one, recognizing when it's time to pivot. So if you're in a space where you feel like something has to give, there needs to be a change, what you were doing previously is no longer working. You had the experience, you're wanting to gain more clients, you're wanting to continue helping people and continue scaling your business, but you're feeling like the opportunities just aren't there. Maybe you need to pivot. And the first thing is to recognize that something has to change. So if you've already recognized it, congratulations. But if you haven't, you're still trying to beat a dead horse basically at this point. You have to recognize that a change needs to happen, that a pivot needs to happen. And just because what you're doing in your business is no longer working doesn't mean you should completely stop. Doesn't mean you should completely shut your business down. There have been plenty of times where I had to pivot, y'all. And I'm sure I've shared multiple stories of me pivoting in my business, but you have to recognize that a pivot is necessary. You have to listen to yourself, listen to the Holy Spirit, listen to your gut, listen to your intuition, whatever it is. For me, I'm a believer, so I'm doing my best to listen to the Holy Spirit about what he may be saying to me, what he may be encouraging me to do. And sometimes he doesn't always talk. Sometimes he invites other people into my business to give me ideas, to confirm what I may be thinking, or what he may be putting inside of my head as far as thoughts. He may talk to me in dreams. I may have a dream about my business, about what I should do, about who I should be working with, about what opportunities I should take. So it's important to be still and listen and, really be open to what it is that the Holy Spirit or God or whoever, may be saying to you, about your business. Now, it is important though to not feel like you have to listen to everything and everybody who is telling you what to do. Because at one point, that's what I was doing. At one point, every time I wanted some advice or every time I felt like I was in some type of bind, I felt like I would go to all of my friends, all of my family, and I would tell everybody. And I would get different opinions from every single person. And what I would do, I would try to combine all of those opinions and thoughts and advice into one response. Like, okay, I'm gonna do that, but I'm also do that, that, and that. And I'm gonna do it all at once and I'm gonna see if it works. And it's like, huh? Why would I do that? Why would I think that was even like right for me to do? So definitely make sure that you're intentional about who you're listening to. Don't feel like you have to run and tell everybody that your business isn't working or you need some help. Speak to wise people, people who are in business, people who you trust, people who you enjoy taking advice from, people who you go to when you feel like you need some assistance, you feel like you need some clarity. But also don't always feel like you have to go to people. Pray about it, pray about it, and be open to receiving whatever it is that God gives you as far as thoughts and desires and clarity. And I was going to say don't be afraid to ask, but yeah, don't be afraid to ask God these questions like, hey, can you give me clarity on my business? Hey Dana. Hey, can you tell me what I should be doing, who I should be working with, all of those things, because sometimes I forget that we can ask. I know I do. I know I try to think that I could do everything in my own strength and everything in my own way, and I can. We all can. It's very possible. But why? Why even stress ourselves out about doing stuff on our own when we can just ask for help, you know? So don't be afraid to ask for help when you're in the space of pivoting and wanting to do something different. You have to, obviously, when you're recognizing, you have to understand and identify those signs that something in your business is no longer aligned. Whether you are burnt out, whether you are no longer passionate, whether your income is stagnant, whether the clients that you are attracting aren't really the right types of clients for you. I remember the last pivot I took, I want to say the last pivot I took, and I'm probably going to pivot again. And you don't have to announce all of your pivots, y'all, but it is important to acknowledge them and to take note, because this is a part of your journey. And, when it comes to being an entrepreneur, I feel like we kind of forget where we came from, or we kind of forget about the challenges that we go through. And as soon as things start to work, we're like, all right, bet. We're focusing on the successful part. We're focusing on what actually is working, but not remembering, like, oh, I remember when I was praying for this, or I remember when I was thinking I wasn't ever going to get to this point in my business. And now I'm here. So it's important to remember these times. It's important to use this time wisely, because when things do start to pick up and when you do start to see the success that you desire to see, you want to be able to remember those times. So specifically, a time where I pivoted was the last time I pivoted, and that was 2022. And 2022, I had clients all year, like literally every month they were coming in through Google. My business is on Google. And if your business is not on Google, put your business on Google. It's free. You don't have to pay for it. If you have a Gmail, it's super easy. At least last time when I did it, it was easy. I don't know if they've changed anything, but hopefully it's still the same. But I was getting clients all 2022. And it was the end of 2022. I want to say October, close to that time. I thought I was ready to hire, because I'm like, I got all these clients. I also was working a 9 to 5. So I'm like, I need some help. So I hired a stylist assistant, virtual stylist assistant, and I had brought her on, and it wasn't even a month. God had literally like stopped all the clients. I'm like, okay, I just hired this girl. Um, I'm confused. What am I supposed to do? Literally, y'all, no more clients. I think I hired her, and the last client I got was towards the end of October. And she helped me style her, basically, and that was it. And thankfully, I was able to pay her, not even from that client, but at the time, if y'all live in the state of Maryland, at the time, 2022, then that gambling was illegal for the most part. Like FanDuel and all that stuff was illegal in the state of Maryland. And at the end of 2022, it became legal. So right then and there, my boyfriend had got on FanDuel. He had got on all the apps. I forgot the other names. of them. And I had asked him, I'm like, hey, well, he had actually asked me to sign up because at this point, everybody was signing up, creating all these different accounts so they can, get as much money as possible betting on, the sports. So he had bet on a game. He had used my account and he won $250. I had hired the stylist assistant and I had promised her $250 a month. So because I didn't have any money to give her from the clients that I had, because I didn't have any clients anymore, I was able to use, thankfully, that $250 that was won from FanDuel to pay the girl. And that was that. I mentioned to her, like business has slowed down. I don't really have any work for you. So I will reach back out when I do. And months had passed, y'all, and I still hadn't had any clients. So when things like that happen, one, that's a sign for me, that's a sign from God to know that, okay, something has to change or he's shifting something out of my control. So what am I going to do? Like, what do I need to do? What's happening? And initially I was upset. I'm like, how would you allow me to have all these clients consistently all year? The one time I decide to bring someone on to build a team, you then stop it. And little did I know or even recognize that although I was consistently bringing in money all of 2022, I honestly didn't feel fulfilled. I was thinking back on the year and all the clients that I had helped, and they were great. But I barely got any testimonials from them. A couple of them never even responded back after I sent them their final deliverables. And a lot of them didn't even shop the lookbooks that I was sending them. So, yes, I made money off the initial booking of the package or the offer that I was providing them. But after that, I just felt like relationships weren't really built. I felt like they were just, going through the motions and it wasn't really sticking. And as a service provider, regardless of what industry you're in, for me, I want to make sure that what I'm providing is actually helping people. I want to make sure that that the offers and the experiences that I'm providing is actually transforming people's lives. It's not fun just to like make money, and it sounds crazy, right? It sounds crazy because it's like everybody wants money. Who doesn't want money? Like we all want money. Like I get it. But like it's not fulfilling when you are just sitting back making money and you think that you're helping people, but you're not really helping people. Or you just don't feel like you're helping people because they're not reciprocating the same type of, um, you know, I don't know how to explain it. They're just not receiving the transformation that you're trying to give them. Yeah, you definitely want to see the transformation. And it's like I spoke on this topic on my latest video that's supposed to be going out today. Hopefully it will. But I spoke on the topic of giving you all different topics for content. So backstory real quick. I record videos weekly. And one of the topics that I recorded this week was providing you 5 different content ideas for stylists. One of the content ideas was basically posting testimonials and posting client transformations. And that type of content helps to bring in more clients, of course, because other people who may be, wanting to work with you or maybe watching you and trying to decide if you're the right service provider for them, they want to see other people that you've worked with. They want to hear how other people have experienced what you provided them. And how this ties into what I was saying was when I was working with all of those individuals in 2022, I was barely getting a testimonial to even share with other people. So I was doing all of this work behind the scenes, but basically had nothing to show for it. So what is the point of all of that? I was making money, but had nothing to show for it. What is the point? I didn't get it. So that's what I mean by, really recognizing that a pivot needs to happen, that a change needs to happen, and that it's time for you to do something different. Because if he wouldn't have stopped the clients from coming in, I would have probably still been doing the exact same thing that I was doing in 2022. So because he basically closed that up, I felt led to invest in a coach in 2023. I was out of work. So I had got laid off at the top of 2023. I invested in the coach later in the year in 2023. And I rebranded my entire business, rebranded my offers, rebranded my title, and just how I was showing up. Changed my verbiage. Nothing really about me changed. Well, I'm not gonna say that. I did change a lot, but nothing really about like my business changed too much. But aside from what I was offering changed, some of the words I was using changed, and then my title and even my process changed a bit. So I was open to changing, but you have to understand that sometimes when you're in the midst of a pivot or when you're going into a pivot, you have to give yourself time to actually make the change. When you pivot, it's not something that's going to be like, all right, I'm pivoting. All right, tomorrow I'm exactly where I need to be. Like, no, you have to give yourself the time and the ability to actually work in your business and on your business too. And also give yourself some time to rest because pivoting isn't the easiest thing to experience when you're a business owner because you're wanting to bring in money with everything that you're doing. If you're not bringing in money, then what are you really doing, you know? So the money is important, but the impact is even more important. So if you're not able to make money, you're not able to make an impact because you're in the middle of pivoting, it can be very stressful. So you have to make sure that you give yourself time to one, rest, to, acknowledge that a pivot needs to happen and to strategize and be open to the pivot and what all comes with that, if that makes sense. So moving on to number two, because I can talk about number one the whole entire time. But moving on to number two, you have to, when it comes to the power of pivoting, you have to reposition yourself with confidence. So when I say that, I mean when you come out of that pivot, even while you're in the pivot, sometimes while you're in it, you may not be posting on social media. You may not be sending out emails. You may not be, in the eyes of your audience because you're taking a step back to breathe and to strategize and to figure out your next move. So you may not be in front of everyone doing all the things that you were doing before. So, but you have to be confident in that. Maybe you can post and let people know you're taking a break. Or maybe you don't have to say anything at all. Like I said, you don't always have to announce your pivot. You don't always have to announce when you're changing things or doing something different. Like if you feel led to do that, cool. But like that's not something that you always have to do. It's just not necessary. Because if I announced every time I was pivoting, I probably would have announced that maybe like 20 times. And people don't need to know that. Like, it just doesn't make sense. There's no benefit to that. But I will say that's, while you're in the pivot. Now, when you come out of the pivot and you've rebranded, you've repositioned yourself, you're now in a space where you're offering something different. Maybe your title is different. Maybe your name for your business is different. Maybe how you are talking to your audience is different. Like, you have to be confident in that. People may respond and say, hey, what happened? Or, hey, where have you been? Or, hey, things look a little different here. Are you still offering this? Because I noticed that it's now something different on your website. And when that happens, you have to be confident in that. Yeah, I have gone through some transitions. This is what I'm currently offering now. And I know that it's 10 times better than what I was offering before. I know it'll be helpful to you. Like, you have to be confident in that. You have to, because otherwise, people are going to constantly ask you what happened, and you're going to say too much, and or you're going to feel like you're going to have to, I don't want to say dial back, but kind of go back in the same direction that you were before because that's what people were used to. And you have to realize, when you're a business owner and you are in a pivot or pivoting in a different direction, you can't be like going back and forth. You got to stick with the new thing that you that you said you were going to do. So you have to reposition yourself with confidence. So whether it be reframing your skills, the offers that you serve to your audience and all the things, like, put that out there. Let people know that something new is happening. Let people know, that you're now offering this as opposed to this. And you can even let them know why. You can let them know that this new offer or this new experience is life changing. And before it was surface level. Be honest if you want. If that's how you are with your branding, your business, be honest. Updating your messaging, your content, your online presence um, reflect the pivot. A lot of the times I do a photo shoot, and with those new pictures, I'd update my website. Same layout, but just new photos, you know? Same, uh, sometimes even the same title, but new photos or new verbiage and new photos explaining to people who I am. You can reintroduce yourself, let people know, hey, I used to call myself this, now I'm calling myself this, and this is why. I've gone through a transition, I've gone through a pivot. And you have to be open and embracing that imposter syndrome that may come up. Because doing something new compared to what you were doing before, like it's scary. Because you're like, wait a minute, this is new. People aren't used to this. People aren't used to seeing me like this. Like, how are people going to receive this? How are people going to act? But like, you can't be focused on that. You have to be focused on, the end result. You have to be focused on what you said you were going to do. You have to be focused on that. Another time I pivoted, and I'm sure I told this story before, for most of my career in the beginning, 2013, I was a blogger. Then I transitioned into editorial styling the following year. After about 3 years, I then transitioned into personal styling. Half of you may not even know the difference between editorial versus personal styling. And at the time, I didn't even know that other types of styling even existed. But when I found out more about personal styling, I got a job as a personal stylist. I'm like, well, wait, I prefer to do this. And when I was doing editorial styling, I was literally just doing what I thought a stylist was supposed to do. And over time, I didn't feel inspired. I didn't feel creative. I was second guess all of my style choices. I felt like my work didn't look like everybody else's. I just didn't feel confident. And that's another sign that means that a pivot needed to happen. So for 3 years, I did not feel like I was capable. I didn't feel like I was enough. I felt like I had to do more. I felt like my styling work was very boring, very lackluster compared to everybody else. Come to find out, I wasn't even called to that. I was called to a different type of styling that aligned more with what my, skills were. Not to say that I can't do editorial styling. You can do any type of styling you want to do. You can run any type of business you want to do if you learn how to do it. But for me, I just didn't feel, I don't know, I just didn't feel like myself. I felt like I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't as an editorial stylist. So when you feel that way, or when you feel like, you're not comfortable, you're not, and not to say that you should feel comfortable at all times. It's good to be uncomfortable. But when you don't feel like you're at home when you're doing your work, then that means something has to change. That means a pivot needs to happen. So I pivoted into personal styling, and I've been here ever since. Now, obviously, I've changed my name since then. I don't actually call myself a personal stylist. I call myself a style savant. And that's because I do a lot more than just putting outfits together. But from there, I felt confident. I felt comfortable saying that I was a personal stylist, even if people didn't know what that was. I felt comfortable enough, not in the beginning, but over time, I felt comfortable enough to be like, yeah, oh, you don't know what that is? Oh, okay, well, this is what a personal stylist does. This is what a style savant is. Oh, you thought I did hair? No, I actually don't do that. This is actually what I do. And this is why I do it. This is who I help. And this is why I help them. And going back to that confidence piece, when you reposition yourself, you have to be confident in that. Even once I transitioned from editorial to personal styling, people will still reach out to me like, hey, can you style this photo shoot? They weren't paying me. They just wanted me to style it. And that's what most of the editorial work was that I was doing. That's what it looked like. I wasn't getting paid. I was basically styling models. And I had to go out and either buy clothes or I had to pull clothes. And I was either shooting outside with a photographer or at a studio. I was there all day. Again, I wasn't getting paid. And not to say that it's not possible to be paid as that type of stylist, because it is. But where I was living and the type of work that I was providing, nobody had enough money to pay me anything. So that was another reason why I decided to pivot. But also too, what I pivoted to was more so my calling than what I was actually doing. But it took me some time to realize that. And that's okay too. Sometimes it's going to take you some time. Sometimes that realization isn't going to come right away. You have to go through some things to understand, like, oh, maybe that's why that didn't work. Or, oh, maybe that's why that happened. Because it is now pushing me in a direction that I should be going into, as opposed to, you know, me staying here in this space, being stagnant and just doing it because I think that I'm supposed to be doing it. Same thing going back to 2022 when the clients stopped. I didn't ask for that. I didn't know that was going to happen. And again, if it didn't happen, I would probably still be where exactly I was in 2022. But because it stopped and because I didn't feel fulfilled, I was pushed to do something a little bit different than what I was doing before, or a lot different than what I was doing before, to be honest. So pay attention to that, y'all. Um don't block that out. Don't hide that. Don't feel like, you need to push that away or push that in the back of your mind. Like, pay attention to it because it's obviously happening for a reason. All right. So number 3, the last point when it comes to the power of the pivot and when and how to shift in your styling business, you want to make sure the pivot is profitable. So you want to make sure that what you are pivoting to is actually making sense financially for your business. And sometimes you might pivot and you may not see the finances that you want to see straight out the gate. Sometimes it may take some time. My last pivot, like I told y'all, got let go in 2023. The client stopped at the end of 2022. Was out of a job all 2023 for the most part up until August. I got a job. And y'all, these jobs aren't just random jobs. Like, I'm not like doing random stuff. Like, I'm actually in the fashion industry styling, which is a whole nother conversation within itself. But when I do have to pivot and go back to work, or when I did have to pivot and go back to work, I was still doing fashion. Like, I was still doing style. I wasn't doing something random that didn't align with my passions and my desires and my calling, which is another thing that I encourage you to do if you're a stylist and if you're in the styling industry and your business isn't exactly where you want it to be. Get a job. It's okay. Like, get a job. Now, if you don't feel led to get one, don't. There were multiple times where I was out of a job for months on end and I did not feel led to get a job, and I was okay. I was okay mentally for the most part. Financially, I was okay. Obviously I got through it, but you have to understand that the pivot won't always bring the finances right away. Sometimes it takes a while, and that's cool too. Like I was saying, I pivoted in 2023, relaunched in July of 2023. Did I get any clients when I relaunched? No. I didn't get my first client after relaunching until January of 2024. So thank God for getting the job in August of 2023, because that held me, that helped me to get through. And it was a job that I enjoyed doing. And that's literally why I'm encouraging you to stick with the industry that you're in. If it's not working with what you're doing and you have to pivot throughout that pivot and you feel led, go get a job doing the same thing that you're doing in your business, if you can find one. Thankfully, I was able to find one, or, thankfully there was one that was available to me. But, I'm not about to sit back and want my business to work, but I'm over here doing something random for my 9 to 5 that has nothing to do with what I'm trying to do. Most of the stuff that I've learned, and I say this all the time, most of the stuff that I've learned in my business, or even the things that I use to run my business, the mindset that I have when it comes to my business, and all the things I've gotten from working a 9 to 5 as a stylist or at a fashion brand. So I'm learning from them while they're paying me to work for them. They're literally my client. They're paying me to work for them. So it's literally the same thing. So to go back what I was saying, you have to make sure the pivot is profitable. So the pivot isn't always going to be profitable in the beginning. Sometimes it will be, sometimes it won't. Like I said, I didn't get my first client after rebranding. Rebranded July of 2023. I didn't get my first client until January of 2024 with that new experience that I was offering. Paid me in full. And guess what? That client came from the job, that 9 to 5 that I got hired at in August of 2023. How funny is that? How funny is that? That also shows you alignment. So you want to make sure that when you are confirming whether or not the pivot is actually profitable, you are using your resources. You're using what you've, how can I put it? You're using the data that you've picked up throughout your time when you were strategizing and working. So, like, in order for me to pivot and now offer a new offer, I reached out to I reached out to potential clients. I also reached out to past clients and I interviewed them. I asked them some questions like, hey, how was your experience? Hey, how many times do you find yourself shopping per month or per year or per quarter? Have you ever, worked with a stylist before? Obviously, these are questions for people who were potential clients. How much do you typically pay for a stylist, or how much would you invest in someone, like me? What are you actually looking for from an experience like this type of experience that I'm offering? Interview people who fit your target audience and collect that data. See what they have to say. Ask them if they would prefer a virtual experience versus an in person experience. It's also similar to doing polls on social media, asking questions in your stories. Like, ask people questions to see what they will want from someone like you, from an expert like you. Ask those questions so you'll know, okay, well, when I do start offering this new service, it should probably look a little bit like this. It should probably include this because people who fit my target audience, they want this. They're looking for something like this. So consider that. And also, obviously, when you are in the space of pivoting, and I mentioned, prayer and strategizing and asking God for help, He'll tell you what you can do. For the most part, He'll tell you, He'll send someone else to tell you, He'll give you a thought to go do something or to think about something or to go back to doing something that you were doing before. And that will help you to also make sure that your pivot is profitable. You want to make sure you're crafting your offers that align with the new direction that you're going into and crafting offers that serve the community, the audience that you are wanting to target. So, when it comes to pivoting to, like I said, the finances or the profit may not come right away, you want to test these things out on people. So once you create your new offer, once you create your new experience, test it out on a few people who actually fit your target audience. See if it actually works. Test it out on yourself. See if it actually works. See if what you are now offering or what you want to offer is making sense for your audience. And be consistent. Like, set a goal for yourself. All right, if I can test this out on 5 people and 3 out of those 5 people enjoyed the experience, well, you would hope that all 5 enjoy it. But 3 out of the 5 people enjoy the experience and they want to refer me, or they actually want to invest in this as a real thing, or they actually got results, then I know that what I'm doing is going to work. I know that what I'm doing is going to be helpful. I know that what I'm offering now is going to, make sense for when I launch it and for when I put it out there. So it's important to just be open to the process of pivoting and be open to hearing people's feedback and not, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say not being defensive and or not taking everything personally. because I get it. Like, this is your business, this is your baby, like, this is something that you're working on, this is something that you birthed. So, it's you love it. And it's hard to hear criticism on your business after you worked so hard on it and have done so many new things, and people are telling you like, yeah, this didn't work, or yeah, I didn't like this. It's like, okay, take it like a grain of salt, accept it and see what you can do with it. But also don't feel like you have to take everybody's advice, because not everybody is going to have your best interest in mind. So I hope this was helpful. I ended up being, as always, live a lot longer than what I expected. But let me know if you have any questions in the chat, while I take I thought I had my water. I do. Let me know if y'all have any questions in the chat. I'll wait just a bit if you do. But if you're watching the replay and you have questions, feel free to drop them below. I will always come back and answer and respond to them. But I hope that this is helpful to y'all. I hope that y'all enjoyed this conversation. And I hope that if you're in a pivot, if you're in the middle of a pivot, that you are being open minded, that you are continuing to pray and ask God for the help that you need, um, and that you join community and be around people who value what you do, that may also do the same thing that you're doing, and not to compete with you, but to, work together to create a space for whoever it is that you are wanting to serve. So, thanks, Dana. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. I'm glad y'all enjoyed this. And I won't be going live next week. I will be out of town. But I will catch y'all the week after next. So, yeah, I'll make sure I remind y'all as well on the community tab. But other than that, thank y'all for watching and tuning in, and I will see y'all soon. Bye.